All right, good evening. I'm showing 7 o'clock, and I just want to make sure I see Mr. Osborne, Mr. Cable, Ms. Joy, and Ms. Ogden. So it looks like we're all here. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Education on Monday, August the 10th. And Dr. Gibson, do we have the screen sharing for the pledge? Is that
Yes,
working
ma'am.
with the update? Excellent. If you'd please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Dr. Gibson, our reentry plan review as of 7:01 this evening.
Yes, ma'am. Understanding that 7:03 may bring something different. I actually have a large number of things to share with everyone today. First and foremost, everyone is aware that we released our virtual plan, parent Q&A, and the survey for parents to actually register for virtual school, along with sample schedules for kindergarten, elementary, middle, and high school, so that parents could visualize what a typical virtual schedule may look like and get an idea of the amount of screen time, the brain breaks that were built in, the social emotional support and intervention that was built in. We also sent a notice of the 2 Zoom meetings that we'll have this week, one on August 12th and the other in the evening on August the 13th. Those links are on our website, and we'll continue to send those out along with a blast reminder to everyone to register. I really need to give a shout out to Lee Ebersol, Kathy Rinker, Wendy Dotson, and Carol Whittington. They came in on their days off and stuffed 1,400 envelopes by hand, folded by hand, with the survey letters, information about virtual, and in Spanish, a translation offer for every single family who attends one of our Title I schools, and mailed them along with a self-addressed stamped envelope to be absolutely certain that everyone in our community has equal access to virtual school should they choose it, along with the notice to them about how to request a laptop and access to internet service should they need it. So kudos to them for just an extraordinary amount of effort. A couple of other updates this week, our IT department, and shout out to Jen Rowan, who I'm not sure how she's maintaining her sanity these days, but we began the process of converting 1,500 ACERs over to Chromebooks. We currently have 700 Chromebooks in warehouse ready to go and hand out to students. Again, Jen Rowan and Lee Ebersol and Sean Dilley worked very, very diligently for us to put together in less than a week's time a grant for some COVID Cares state funding. And I am very happy to say that I got a notice on Saturday that we were awarded a $450,000 grant from the West Virginia Department of Education for additional Chromebooks for connectivity for our students, the purchase of hotspots should it be needed, and the training of teachers on social emotional supports In addition, it pays for the background checks and training for a cohort of Shepherd University students who they have a program for students who don't have the same opportunities for internships that they normally do and are interested in mentoring Jefferson County school students and providing some social and emotional support and connection during this time for kids in virtual who may feel very disconnected. They will be subjected to a background check and undergo training with our staff to hold supervised social emotional support and connection visits with our kids. So it's a great partnership. Thank you so much to Danielle and to Holly Fry over at Shepherd University. They are very good partners. Also wanted to give some information out for our updated parent Q&A, which we will post. First of all, we've gotten a lot of questions on some misunderstandings about the first 2 weeks of school. As seems to happen frequently, social media has, surprise, surprise, distributed some falsehoods. Some parents have been given the information that students who are on virtual have to attend the first 2 weeks of school to get training on virtual. That is absolutely, utterly false. If you choose virtual, you choose virtual. And if you need distribution of a device, we'll provide that. We will also be conducting training via Zoom for parents and students. So there is no requirement that you attend school in order to sign up for or participate in virtual. In addition, we've gotten a lot of questions about extracurricular and virtual. So students who wish to participate in sports and another biggie, band outside of school for students who are on virtual. We support that, although we do not provide transportation to those after school activities. We have not previously and we will not now. We do have some pressure points at middle school with some of our programs, in particular band. It is a beloved institution, understandably, when you know our band teachers. And a lot of folks want to participate, and we're looking at ways to build in virtual opportunities for those students before and after school. Also, I've gotten a lot of questions about honors and AP and dual enrollment, and we will continue to reiterate that AP, honors, and dual enrollment will be offered in the virtual environment. Those have certain requirements, of course, as they always have, but they will be delivered as part of our program. There may be instances in some of our classes based on staffing requirements that we have a mix of honors students and students who don't wish to pursue honors. In those cases, the teachers will be providing rubrics and information to students, making it clear what they have to do in the class in order to achieve honors. A lot of questions about when parents can switch back and forth between virtual and on-site in one direction or another. And currently, we follow the West Virginia Department of Education's model. Individuals can switch at semester break and not before. Have also gotten several questions about the sample schedules. Everything from my child has dance class at 1 p.m. So I saw the sample schedule and they can't do that. Well, the sample schedule is exactly that. It's a sample. It shows all of the things that have to be included in a teacher's schedule that you can expect to get during a school day. It does not show you exactly minute for minute what your child's school day will look like. It may start a little earlier, it may start a little later. English may be inverted with math. The synchronous and asynchronous times might look slightly different. So those were provided as samples for folks to be able to see. The content of them will hold true and your general schedule will hold true. But those, we got from a lot of parents, they couldn't visualize what a virtual day would look like in their minds. We also wanted to give everyone an update. We've had a lot of questions about whether or not we will have enough staff to be able to run these programs. And as I will say, we had enough staff for students before, they're just all in different places. So we will have enough staff. We will have to rely on West Virginia Virtual for some classes. We always have. We've had West Virginia Virtual since I've been here and long before. We will continue to use them in places where classes are too small or where someone wants a specialized class that we don't have someone certified to teach. To date, we've had 773 of our staff respond to the survey. And of those, 758 of them are returning. That's a 98% return rate. And of those, 638 are returning on site. So that is a pretty significant percentage. I think it's hovering around 87% right now. Of those, 60 of them will require some accommodation for us and have provided some medical documentation. All of those individuals we are meeting with one by one to see what accommodations they need and putting those in place. Another issue that we worked through, we heard from a number of parents with kindergarten students who, for their family's own needs and reasons, wanted to homeschool their kindergarten students for just this year and bring them back for first grade next year when they felt like things had changed sufficiently on site. There is a West Virginia law that prohibits anyone from entering the first grade unless they have been in a state-approved kindergarten program. So again, can't give enough credit to Jan Barth and Michelle Blatt and Clayton Birch at the State Department. They actually worked very hard, and they will be, for the first time, making any kindergarten parent who enrolls their child in kindergarten this year, for 1 year only, that will be a state-approved homeschool program so that those students can come back in the next school year and enroll their children with us in the first grade. As we've said to them and they've worked with us, we support parents making the choices that feel best for them and their family. We will give people as much flexibility as we can. We know these are very difficult times. And I have to say, on every possible level, I appreciate that WVDE is in as difficult a space as we are, and they're absolutely doing the best that they can to accommodate us. One of the places that they are struggling to accommodate us is technology-wise. As you may know, WEVUS is the system that the state uses for scheduling. They use it for data reporting and a whole host of reasons. Right now, due to the significant load, they are having problems with WEVUS's auto scheduling feature, which we use to feed kids schedules into, and they make the schedule based on what kids need, and then we deal with any discrepancies and one-offs and requests. Right now, our counselors are working to put those in by hand, and we have over 3,000 students. So again, doing the best that we and they can under difficult circumstances. They've identified some workarounds that will require some extra work for us to link classes from semester to semester. But again, every single person who's involved in this is just going above and beyond to do what's necessary to help kids and to help parents and to help our staff. So on the technology front, another thing that the state is working on doing is, as you heard in the governor's press conference, they have committed to having community access wireless points in every single county. They have informed us that they will be sending a technology team, and that every single school that we have, they will be installing external facing wireless access points that will still have the state Department of Education's filtering system on them. So any family that can get to one of our schools, we will have designated areas in our parking lots near our buildings. As the governor stated, that service is open to both K-12 students and to college students. We'll let folks know when those are completed. I have heard a lot of questions about what circumstances might lead to closure or to remote learning. I will continue to convey, currently, neither the superintendent nor a local school board are being told they do not have the legal authority to call for remote learning, to close down schools and call for remote learning. Currently, we're being told that that authority only resides with the governor. If that changes, trust and believe, we will let you know. Right now, the way that DHHR, the West Virginia Department of Education, and the governor have conveyed to us that they are handling this is on Friday, the 14th, they will be releasing what they are calling a dashboard system. And that dashboard system will have county by county a 7-day rolling average of newly identified COVID cases. Should those cases exceed certain thresholds, it will change the color-coded status of the school system. So the color codes that they have given us are green, yellow, orange, and red. Green and yellow are simply informational alerts for us, for our status. Orange, there will be some requirements for the school system in terms of meeting with DHHR and discussing any additional cleaning protocols that are required, and some restrictions on sports and extracurricular events. A code red, we've been told, will require the entire school system to shut down for a minimum of 14 days. And at the end of those 14 days, we will not be given a reopen order until the number of cases has decreased below a certain threshold that we have not been given yet. So we are working on taking parts of our safety plan and corresponding them over to the green, yellow, orange, red, so that families know when they see that color-coded system, supposedly they're going to be able to go on and check it at any time and see where we're at in the process, and then they'll see what our corresponding action is to that. And last but not least, we have worked very hard, and again have to give Miss Mary Linda and Sean Dilley credit for putting together our pre-K schedule and planning content. As you well know, those students fall under an entirely separate set of regulations in terms of what content they have in terms of what precautions we have to take. And that plan is being sent out to all of our pre-K families and will be posted up on our website so that preschool families can see those. So that's what has happened since last week. And we have a weekly superintendent's update with the state superintendent that occurs on Wednesdays. And we also are aware of the governor's recent announcement that he will make some type of decision on September the 1st. We've been given no advance notice of what that decision might be about, how it might be influenced. As always, we try to keep people as well informed as possible, even when that information is contradictory, simply because it's what we have right now. So thank everybody for their patience. So we invite everybody to go to our website and look at our updated documents. Please, please, please fill out your registration forms. The sooner you do that, the easier it is for our staff to move forward with all of the thousands of details that we have to work out about assignments and class schedules. Thank you very, very much to the staff for their hard work and to the parents for their trust and support. Please continue to email us suggestions. Those are helpful, and we appreciate it. And if you have any questions, Ms. Skinner, I'd be happy to answer those.
I have lots of questions, but I don't think we have the answers yet.
No, ma'am. Sorry.
Okay. And Dr. Gibson, now we're at superintendent's comments. Do you have any non-reentry comments for us this evening?
I'm sure that we do something else, but right now, no, ma'am. No, ma'am. Again, I cannot thank the staff enough for the sheer volume of time that they're putting in when they're getting here early in the morning and staying late in the evenings, and they're coming in here on their days off, and it is something to behold. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting held July 27th, 2020, and the special board meetings held July 23rd and August 3rd, 2020?
So moved, Ogden.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, citizens' comments. Ms. Harner, I believe we have 3 this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I'm appearing as Brooke Jones, if you'll notice in the on your screen. I'm at my neighbor's and I'm using her computer and didn't realize that her name would appear, but that's actually me. Yes, three citizen comments, and I think I've given you those.
Yes, ma'am. All right, give me just 1 second here so I can get a timer ready. And Ms. Allen, Rachel Allen, you're up first. So give me just 1 second here. And as you know, you have 3 minutes, okay? All right, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Dr. Gibson, Jefferson County Board of Education members, and other concerned citizens. I want to express my gratitude to you all for your dedication to Jefferson County students, families, and employees. Thank you for serving this community during this unprecedented time. I would like to ask Dr. Gibson and the Board of Ed to ask Governor Justice to move to 100% virtual learning. All sickness, death, and long-term effects of the virus can be avoided by having virtual school for everyone, not just those who feel it is safer or for those whom it's convenient for. None of us have ever lived through a pandemic until now. We don't know how to do this safely because we have never done it. Consistency is something I strive for as a teacher and parent. It is one of the #1 things student needs. Virtual school would guarantee everyone would be safe, and learning in a consistent environment, not a learning environment that would be disrupted by mandatory quarantine on an irregular basis. The anxiety of going back to school and being in a building for 8 hours with large groups will create mental health issues for staff, students, and families. Students, teachers, and staff wouldn't have to worry about bringing the virus home to their families if we were virtual. We signed up to work in schools, not medical facilities. We signed up to teach and care for students, not diagnose them and create fear in them by sending them to quarantine when they show a COVID-19 symptom. We can teach and care for them virtually. We need to think outside the box. Consider having regular home visits for some of our students who do need to see us in person, especially those students whose most important needs are not being met. Let's keep them and their families safe from the virus by keeping them in a consistent environment. We need to lead the way and make decisions like we are in a pandemic, not just because it's September and it's time to start school. If we are forced to start school in person, I have some concerns with how we are to have performing arts classes safely. I am a performing arts teacher, so this is something very close to my profession. I would like some more detailed guidance from the county or state on how we are to have class safely. These classes are so important to students and the community because they create a place where students can be creative and they provide an outlet from the other classes during the day. The decisions we are making at this juncture are not easy ones and ones none of us signed up to do. Please use our funds to make virtual school better for everyone in order to keep everyone safe. Please lobby for virtual school with Governor Justice in order to keep everyone safe. And please consider changing the whole plan in order to keep everyone safe. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. All right, next up we have Angie Flook. Ms. Flook.
Hi, everyone. I have a lot to say, and I apologize to the board in advance because I was concerned I would run out of time, and I sort of flip-flop my statements a little bit. But I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Angie Flook, and I am the chorus teacher at Charlestown Middle School, and this coming year will be my 14th year working at Jefferson County Schools. So I'm here tonight to discuss a few main things that I think are important with regard to performing arts instruction, provided we are in school. I'm going to limit my comments to the performing arts because that's what I do, and I do recognize that the visual arts and fine arts are also impacted, but I'm not here to speak to them tonight. So the things I wanted to talk about are safety, some research that I've done, the support we need from the board, the value added by our programs, and equity. And again, I probably won't get to all those. The issue of safety needs to be addressed. Appendix G of the West Virginia Reentry Guidelines for grades 6 through 12 are vague and scientifically inadequate. And the guidelines for grades K through 5 don't even exist. I spoke with the West Virginia Coordinator of Arts today, and he assured me that it is the responsibility of our county without an art supervisor to develop this plan. So please, Jefferson County Schools, as we move forward, please clearly outline the safe data-based practices for the performing arts in the county reentry guidelines. Principals and teachers and parents should know how to plan and what to expect. And I think we need your help with that. I recognize that just because I've sent out a lot of information, and I know I've sent a lot, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've had time to read it all. So I wanted to share a little bit of the information that I have gathered in my research and by talking with over a dozen colleges and universities across our country. The pillars of mitigation for the performing arts classes are masks, distance, time, airflow, and hygiene. And the research indicates that we must meet all of these if we're to practice safely. If we cannot check each of those boxes, we cannot safely sing or play instruments this year. To give an example of one of these mitigating factors, I can speak to distance in my classroom, and the current recommendation of the American Federation of Musicians and the National Association of Music Executives at state universities is 12-foot spacing for rehearsing vocal music with a mask on. So per this guidance, I can only fit 4 students in my 787 square foot classroom. So you can see that we have some thinking to do outside of the box, like Mrs. Allen said. Another quick note is of those 13 universities I've spoken to, at least half of them are not singing at all this year. It's simply not safe at this time. If we plan to continue singing and playing wind instruments, the performing art teachers in our counties, we need you to prioritize safety in our classrooms so that we can focus on our students and the development of unique instruction for both the traditional, the virtual, and the remote learning plans. At a minimum, this means time.
I'm sorry, you've reached your time.
Okay. Can I finish my sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. At a minimum, this means we need the board to be willing to provide funding for additional safety supplies and data on our ventilation systems. Thank you for everything you've done so far.
Thank you. All right, and then last up we have Ryan Allen. Mr. Allen, whenever you're ready.
Thank you and good evening. I've got three just major questions that I'm sure have been asked several times, but the information doesn't get trickled down to just the general public unless you go digging for it. The first is all the surrounding counties close to us, Loudoun County, Frederick County, and Maryland. What data are these states using to keep their schools or counties closed? What data are they using, and then what data is West Virginia using? And what's the difference that what's telling West Virginia that we can stay open when we have very similar population centers in neighboring counties? Is the data that significant to keep us open? And I am speaking mostly for Jefferson County, just because we're so populous and close to DC and Leesburg and Frederick, Maryland. You know, what's keeping Jefferson County safe as opposed to some of the less populated counties that might not have a high incidence rates. I'd be curious to know what's telling us to keep West Virginia open and not just keeping everyone at home and preventing anything from happening. Second question would be, we're seeing more and more articles about schools being open for a few weeks and then having to shut down. Why not use that as an example of what could very easily happen here? And the third question is just concern for teachers. My wife's a teacher, and we know we know tons of teachers that have just tough family schedules that it's hard enough to have your child in school or in daycare as it is, and then if they have to come home and get quarantined, like I'm just concerned about the disruption of teacher schedules. But what is the state's plan to help out with that? Will there be people that can fill in substitutes, or some type of home care that can come to an educator's house who has to stay home and be quarantined? I'd like to hear what the state has to say about that. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any changes to the consent agenda, Dr. Gibson?
Yes, ma'am. Number 15 and 16 on that list were corrected to identify two people off the transfer list that weren't previously identified. And number 17, there was inadvertently a wrong number dropped into the posting number, and we corrected it.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Good question. Can I
Well,
ask a question?
Let's get a motion first.
Oh, okay.
So moved, Ogden.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Second, Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All right, Ms. Joy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had asked a couple of weeks ago about letting the board know when someone is hired that isn't certified, and letting us know when a certified applicant has applied for a position but isn't hired. So I wanted to, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but it sounded like it. So want to know if that's possible.
I'll ask Ms. Loring. Ms. Loring, I know we've reworked the way that the consent agenda reads as far as hires, versus appointments versus, transfers. Is it possible to mark the certified teachers with just an asterisk next to their name, demonstrating that they are certified?
We addressed this question and established the process that we put in place this year with Human Resources, that before somebody is placed on the agenda, they are vetted through the certification office to make sure that they have the proper credentials. The question, so that was addressed already, and then it's not a practice for counties to put that on their board agendas because of the processes in place. And the question about notifying the board when a certified applicant has applied, this is the first time that I'm hearing that request. So I have not had an opportunity to address that.
So, it doesn't have to be the public's view. It could be in the board docs view, but we have had a situation or several situations where people that are certified aren't getting interviews, and I get complaints often about it. So I just feel like maybe this is a good time to, deal with that.
We wouldn't know who's certified in the interview process because all we get is the final result and the recommendation. So, even if we mark that this person is a certified English teacher and is going to be teaching English, we wouldn't know, if there were 6 other applicants and 3 of them were certified and the rest weren't certified, or we would never know that mix. But, all we get is the final recommendation for that position.
And that's purposely how the law is set up, so that school boards are not the ones who are vetting and both making recommendations to themselves and being the ones who make the selection as well. It's purposely set up for a division of those labors so that the staff vet the individuals who come forward, interview them, and then put someone up for a recommendation. The board has at every opportunity to reject an applicant that's put forth for recommendation if they so choose. And as Ms. Loring has conveyed, if someone is on there for a permanent position, they are certified. If they are not certified, they are in there as a long-term sub and they've attended training for substitute teachers. So, I understand certainly the desire for always more information. But as our attorney and as the West Virginia School Board Association and their training and the West Virginia Department of Education conveys in our practices and in their guidance for staff, that is a separate process.
So we have this ongoing situation. I brought up the policy 6.27. I hope it's gone now because I don't see it, but that was the policy that allowed Jefferson County to hire subs when there are 2 certified applicants. So I have not heard that this policy or practice has changed. I only don't see it sitting there. So I sent an email asking, and I didn't hear back. So I just, even though that SOP may or may not be there, I feel like we need to do a better job of making sure that we have certified applicants and that those that are applying are given interviews and not passed over for subs just because there aren't 3 as opposed to 2 that are applying. I mean, that goes against the state code. The state code says that after the second time a position is posted, the certified applicant has priority. So is there another way that, you know, you can assure the board that certified applicants are being, you know, given consideration?
I think the board has enough faith in me that I am following the procedures and the policies in the state code as established.
If the board did, I wouldn't be asking for it. I am part of the board, and maybe the rest of the board, you know, has that confidence, but it's taken me 2 months since I started. When I went to the orientation, I asked that that policy please be removed, and it may have been removed last week because I don't see it. But so you've been following that practice for as long as you've been employed here because you have that SOP. So maybe they've been having faith in you without realizing. So I don't know the situation, but clearly the policy is there, was there.
We're getting off topic here for the consent agenda. That's a different topic. So if we could just focus on the consent agenda right now. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any other questions or discussion about the actual consent agenda?
Yeah, I have a question about number 29, 30, and 31. Could I have a little explanation? Are those new positions?
Hold on.
That's the children's literature reviewer.
Right. I mean, I've never heard of that position before.
Yeah,
Our coordinators have reviewed those in the past, and we put them out for public review. Why are we hiring people to review that?
That is new to me. I figured that was, when I saw it on there, that was a past practice. So if that's not something, and I need to go back and take a look at it, then I can do that.
So can we pull those 3 off and get more information on them?
Mr. Dilly, if he has any information, I know that this past school year, the state changed the process for reviewing materials. Previously, they completed material review and then gave us a list from which to choose. And last year's legislative session, they disbanded that at the state level and passed it off to local. So, Mr. Dilly, do you have some more information about that?
I'm afraid I'm a little bit limited this evening.
Okay.
But I can find out additional information for you all in the near future, but I believe that is connected to what Dr. Gibson's referring to, but I don't want to provide you some misinformation this evening.
So we'll just pull them and get an explanation to the board and put them on the next time. Thank you, sir.
So Ms. Ogden, would you like to amend your motion to exclude 29, 30, and 31?
Yes, and I had one more question as well about the hearing impaired, deaf and hearing impaired position that the county is hiring. Is that a new position as well? Is it replacing? I know we do contract as well with people for that. Have we ever had that position as a person in Jefferson County Schools? Will they be going to multiple schools? Is it for one student and part of special ed? You know, what is that for?
From experience, I can tell you we've had that position before, and it's been a regular hire position that served several schools in the past.
Yeah, I do believe we have done that. So I didn't know if this was an additional one or is this a replacement for the one, because of the way it's written, it looks like it may be a new, an additional one.
Which one is that, Lori?
Let me look here. It is, if anybody else finds the number before me, speak up.
It is a replacement position for Laura Berkeley. She retired.
It's number 11.
Number 11, okay. So it's a replacement position for somebody that retired. And is it for one student or, and we have how many of these positions do we keep in the county? How many, I guess I would ask, how many deaf and hearing impaired students do we have?
I'm afraid I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, say it's not provided at this point, because it would be, since it was an existing position, then it would have been,
Approve and not
And-
appoint, right?
no, she's a new person.
With the breakdown
Number 11
for
it is.
categories of
Um,
special needs student, it says that there's 11 in the hard of hearing category. I don't know if that helps or not.
There's 11 in hard of hearing and 3 in deafness.
Yeah, and a point is when it's a brand new employee, so they're being appointed for the first time. And she does have certification.
That's why I was wondering about it, because it is, I think it is listed, she is listed under appointment, which means she wouldn't be replacing somebody who retired, correct?
No, yeah, an appoint is a replacement too. Because she's new to the county, so she's being appointed into an employment position for the first time.
And it may be easier if we put, when we first made the changes requested by the board, we had that key. And I think it might be helpful if we just put that into board docs as a permanent, have that key next to it that says, this is what appoint means, this is what transfer means, this is what, I think that might be helpful so that we could check ourselves and make sure that we're putting them in the right category too. So we'll work on like embedding that in board docs in that HR section, if that would help.
Yeah, that'd be good. I appreciate it. And I'll make an amendment to my motion to approve the consent agenda minus number 29, 30, and 31.
Thank you. And Mr. Osborne, do you still want to second that?
Second.
And the only other comment I have is congratulations to Mr. Astorino.
I was just going to say, and before we actually vote on it, I think Dr. Gibson has someone that she would like to introduce because I see he is on the call this evening.
Yes, ma'am. So it is with a great deal of pleasure after a couple of rounds. As everyone here well knows, Ranson Elementary has, in its long and storied history, been led by exactly 2 iconic principals. And so the committee took a lot of time and effort to make sure that we chose the right person to lead next. And Mr. Astorino has a bachelor's degree in from Clarion University in elementary education. He has his master's from WVU in elementary education. He has a principal certification from WVU, and he spent his career teaching elementary school students. He's taught in a Title I school. He taught math for 8 years. He's been an assistant principal for 3 years at Drisswood. He has an enormous amount of experience, and as the committee was very impressed with, both an enormous amount of heart and a commitment to learn and grow in his practice and work with kids. So welcome on board, Mr. Astorino. It'd be lovely if you had something to say.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Gibson, Madam President, as well as all school board members. I want to thank you for this opportunity to be only the 3rd principal there at Ranson Elementary, and giving me the opportunity to grow in my professional career as the next principal there. So thank you again for this opportunity. I very much appreciate it.
Well, I just hope you get comfortable because, as you know, we're not going to switch for quite a few years. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. So there's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion?
I'm sorry, but I do have one more comment. I just as can speak for me, I'm one board member, and I do appreciate everything that you do, Ms. Loring, and I feel that needs to be stated. I feel we did hire you for a reason. I feel like you do a great job, and if I have any questions or if any of the public comes to me with a concern, you know you will be my first phone call. And I will hunt you down, and you know that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I just feel like I need to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right, unfinished business, a special ed follow-up.
Right, I'll get started here. On the July 23rd special meeting, a number of questions surfaced surrounding special education data and the Coordinated Early Intervening Service, or the CCEIS plan response. We have invited Georgia Hughes Webb, manager of the Office of Data Management and Information System with West Virginia Department of Ed, to assist with providing clarity around the data sources. Also joining us from the West Virginia Department of Ed is Susan Beck, the Executive Director for the Office of Special Education and Student Support, to provide additional explanation surrounding the district's identification and required response on the CCEIS plan. So thank you guys. Thank you both for being here this evening.
Thank you very much. Susan, if it's okay with you, from our perspective, I will go first. Madam President, Dr. Gibson, members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to join you from my home on the other side of the state in Jackson County, West Virginia. I'm going to talk with you a little bit tonight. My name is Georgia Hughes Webb. Let me introduce myself. And I'm really glad to be with you to talk about data. I love data, and I'm happy to talk with you about our sources of data. If it's okay with you, Madam President, I would like to share a brief PowerPoint presentation. Would that be okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I will share my screen. And what I have for you today is just a sort of overview about our different data sources and a brief explanation about why you may see some differences in the sources. First, I would like to say that the state of West Virginia has a wonderful richness of our education data. We have longitudinal data going back to the early 1990s through our data system. And over time, we have built reporting tools and verification tools on top of our foundational system that really do make us the envy of other states that do not have this wealth of centralized data. So I would like to say that to get us started. I'm going to start with an overview of our data system in general. You'll see down here at the bottom of my screen, there is a big block for the West Virginia Education Information System, which we commonly call WEVIS. This is the data system that all of our educators are familiar with. It is mandated by state law that every district put data into this centralized statewide data system. People interact with it through the old-fashioned green screen, which some of our users really love. WEVIS on the web or the portal. And Dr. Gibson did mention earlier in the meeting that we are making improvements to it. It is a continuous work in progress, and it is the foundation of everything else. Layered on top of WEVIS, we have our reporting and analysis tools. We do have some reporting in WEVIS. We also have Zoom WV for educators, which is a private data portal. We have Zoom WV, which is our public reporting tool. And then we have local tools like local gradebooks or other tools that people use for call-out systems or gradebooks or other features that are locally determined and established by local staff and local boards. Our stakeholders can use those tools together to make sense of the data, to make policy, to hold schools and students accountable for making good progress, to develop plans and processes, to guide instruction, to plan for the future, and other local decisions that are all geared toward helping students and schools be as successful as possible. So this graphic here is just kind of our framework of data and the foundation, and it all rests upon WEVIS. Now, I don't have anything specific slides about WEVIS, but I do want to mention that WEVIS is real-time data, but it also includes opportunities to snapshot and certify data for specific windows in time. Most of our local staff are familiar with the October collection, which is the second month enrollment, which also incorporates lots of other pieces of information. So that is one of our certified windows. For special education data, we also have the December child count And then at the end of the year, we have exit information about students who are exiting special education. And there are lots of other windows in time where we snapshot data to just kind of get a point in time picture of what's going on in the Mountain State with regards to education. I want to talk a little bit about Zoom WVE because it is becoming an increasingly popular choice for our educators to use in guiding local decisions. The purpose of Zoom WV for educators is to provide detailed, individualized information to guide the day-to-day decisions that promote and support school and student success in real time. So this is very timely data that our educators and administrators can use to make decisions for right now. The data are private, they're for educators only. There is a secure logon portal that uses our Active Directory and our single sign-on service in the state to make sure that people who need access can get it, but people who don't need access can't get in. The dashboards, the data are displayed in dashboards, and they are customized and based on users' roles. There are nightly updates from WEVIS. So every night, the data in Zoom WVE get updated. So when you log on tomorrow, you can see what's happening as of the day before. There are both aggregate and student level reports. You can get lots of really great detailed information. You can filter and build custom groups to help find those groups of students that need your support that you want to monitor on the regular. And the data are displayed in graphs and tables, and they are downloadable. This is sort of a graphic that just shows how the data get from WEVIS into the Zoom WVE portal. So the data are pulled straight out of WEVIS, put into a data warehouse. They're reorganized just a little bit to make it easier to display in the tables and the dashboards. And here is a partial list of the dashboards that are available to our educators. As you can see, this is a pretty long list, and it's not even comprehensive. There is a great deal of information available in Zoom E that our educators can use every day to guide their decision making to help students right now. The second reporting tool that I want to talk with you about is Zoom WV, which is our public reporting portal. This is information that is available to all stakeholders. Every person in West Virginia, every person with an internet connection can log on to Zoom WV and look at the aggregate annual information that our stakeholders can use to guide decisions at sort of a macro level. And it is, of course, designed to help promote and support student and school success. This is aggregate information. You can't drill into the detailed student level data because that would be a violation of FERPA, but it is also annual. So the data on Zoom WV public dashboards are updated only once a year. It is provided for the purpose of accountability and transparency. You can look statewide or at a district level or at a school level, and there are some subgroups reported. You can filter based on the different pieces of information that are available, and like the private site, the data are available in graphs, tables, and downloads. And this is a similar graphic that shows how the data are pulled from WEVIS to the public dashboards, and you'll see that they go through the filter of certification. So we want to make sure that all the data we report publicly have been reviewed and vetted and certified by the local experts who know their students best and want to make sure that their data are represented correctly. So here's a partial list of the dashboards on Zoom WV. The most popular ones, I think, are enrollment and graduation, because everybody likes to know how many students are in their district or in their school and what the demographics are. And everybody also likes to look at the four-year graduation data to see how many students are completing high school successfully and then moving on to the next chapter of their lives. So that's my brief overview, and I will end my slideshow now and ask if there are any questions. I will stop my sharing and ask if there are any questions that you have for me about our data sources and why you might see some differences in them.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for the Zoom WV, I go under enrollment, look up Jefferson County, every percent respectively. Since 2016, 2017, 2018. 14%. All the races are 14% except Asian. I think. I can't replicate that anywhere. Why does your site show that? Are you saying that the school system gave you that information?
All of the data on the enrollment dashboard are certified as of the second month headcount enrollment. So it could be that every number is exactly 14%, or some of them could be 13.8, 13.7, and those round up to 14%. So slight differences might actually render a minor change in the decimal points. But the data have been reviewed and certified as of second month enrollment. And for the special education data specifically, those only include students with disabilities. Those don't include the gifted students.
Well, so your data is very different from what I got an email this afternoon that showed completely different numbers. So why is that?
Well, there could be any number of reasons for that. The data that you received, if they weren't the second month headcount enrollment, then they might have been the December child count for special education students, which is based on a different point in time collection. They could have been based on the end of year certification, which is the 10th month enrollment. So there are 3 separate certifications of our data for special education enrollment specifically at October, December, and then 10th month or end of year. Or they could have been based on current enrollment, which is something different entirely. That's not a snapshot, and that can change from day to day or hour to hour.
So the data on your website for 2016, when would that have been approved?
The data for the 2015-2016 school year, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Would have been reviewed and approved in October of 2015.
Okay, and it never gets updated.
No. Once we take
So
that once we take that point in time certified collection, that's the snapshot, and it reflects that particular day. The data might have been very different the next day, but that wasn't the snapshot day.
So you can, if we look at the data that the school system is now providing, you have a vast difference between 14% and 17%. It's just, I don't need to get into it, but it's not likely that everything is 14% every year. It's just, even if you look at the data in October, it's unlikely that you'll jump from 14 to 17 and then go back to 14 the following year. It doesn't make sense. Are you familiar with the site where I'm talking about? Have you looked at the data?
Are you referring to Zoom WV?
Yeah, for Jefferson County.
Yes.
I mean, have you looked?
I haven't got in
from with the data that I'm concerned about.
You're looking at the second month enrollment for Jefferson County?
For Jefferson County for special ed, that data, have you looked at that to understand or give an explanation as to why it's 14% across the board every year and every race? Have you seen that?
I haven't dug into the details of the data. If you're interested in looking at specific counts, you can actually download a school composition file from Zoom WV in the links section and filter to Jefferson County and look at the subgroup populations and sum up the numbers that way.
Okay, when the county was audited, was it based on those numbers that are in your system now?
I can't speak to that particular question. I'm not sure what audit you're referring to.
Well, that's what this board meeting is a continuation of, this special ed presentation.
If you're referring to the annual desk audit, my colleague Susan Beck is the expert in that area, and I'm sure she can address that question with far more eloquence and knowledge than I can.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I'll intrude. Wanted to just share that in discussions with Georgia, I did realize what the data that I did provide board members, one of the differences and part of what you're seeing from the 14 to 17% was I did include our students that are classified as gifted in my counts. And I did not realize that the state Zoom public site excluded those students. So that's where some of the minor discrepancy is. But as you saw from that data provided, much of it is broken out. I did break it out a little further into the percentages. So you do see that there is a 0.8 or a 0.3 or a 0.6, but I can rerun those calculations based on that for you all. It may take me another day or two, but I can rerun that for you, excluding those.
Your totals, so it looks like you're saying that there's 7,949 students in Jefferson County schools. Is that correct? Based on your data for total. So your totals are, I believe your totals are the problem, and you're dividing the number of special ed by a total instead of combining numbers, but I mean, that's just what I did and got these numbers that you're getting. So your total student population is what? Because it's not the same as what the state says it is. The state says 8,942 students, okay? But your data, which is what I had talked about before, I said those numbers, your column is, they're off by 1,000 students. So if you need to divide the number of special ed students by the total students to get the percentage of special ed students. And that's been a situation. That's a problem. That was a math error that I mentioned previously. So I think that's part of the problem too. I'm just going by what you sent today, that it looks like your student population is wrong.
Well, I'm not quite sure where Mr. Dilly might have pulled the student population from, but if he pulled it from Zoom WVE, that number will be quite a bit lower than what's on the public site because the students who graduated have already been pulled out of the calculations on Zoom WVE. So if he provided you a current count, then it's not going to match what's provided on the October headcount enrollment from this past school year.
Okay. Well, I think that happened each year though, that those numbers are different. So I think instead of having the total student population, I think the column was split in half. So it's special ed and then everybody else. So if you would add those together, maybe you get a truer reflection of the total population. But I haven't looked at it with this new information. So I would, go back and look and see if that changes things. But anyway, there are a lot of differences in the data. So I'm trying to understand, well, again, you said you can't answer that, so I'll wait for the other presenter.
Well, I think it's always good to kind of make sure you have an understanding of where the data have been pulled from. The data on Zoom WV are not going to change. They're the certified data, so they'll remain consistent over time and year to year. Data from Zoom WVE do change. They're updated nightly, and data from Weavis are current as of this very minute. So depending on where the data are coming from, you might get very different results. So it's always a good practice to make sure you understand where the data are coming from, so you can understand why there might be differences between what you're seeing and what's publicly reported through Zoom WV.
Okay.
Can I answer any other questions for anyone? Thank you again for giving me the opportunity. I will mute myself and let Susan tell us more about the annual desk audit.
Thank you, Georgia. We appreciate it.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Susan Beck. I'm the Director of Special Education at the West Virginia Department of Education. I came to this meeting on this call to talk about the comprehensive coordinated early intervening services. I don't have any data in front of me for the annual desk audit, so you know, I'm not sure exactly what you would like me to address there. However, we do need to address the fact that this is a mandatory requirement from the federal level, as in the Office of Special Education Programs. And the calculations were based on, as Georgia had stated, the certified October 1 enrollment and the December 1 child count data from the 2017-18 and then the 2018-19 school year. So it's 2 years worth of historical data, and there's calculations made on that, and that data is certified and has been certified. The calculations for this requirement has been checked by the IDEA Data Center, and that is a technical assistance center that supports states in looking at these calculations, making these determinations on significant disproportionality. And the requirement, of course, is that you must spend 15% of your IDA, which is federal special education monies, on these comprehensive coordinated early intervening services. And, you know, we have made extensive strides with this requirement, as in bringing in this technical assistance center to help with providing information, providing guidance, looking at the calculations, checking the calculations, making sure that, you know, we're not making, you know, any mistakes there, because it is, you know, an extensive requirement. We understand that. And we have made sure that the calculations are correct based on the certified data, as Georgia had mentioned, from the enrollment, the total enrollment, and the December 1 child count. Jefferson County is looking at significant disproportionality in placement. And what that means is that's a least restrictive environment placement. And the reasons that is stated for that were students being placed in out-of-state schools, or the requirement is residential facilities or separate schools. And it was indicated for students with autism or behavior disorders. And with that, it showed that with the calculations that it was a disproportionate amount of students being placed in these out-of-state schools or placements. We are aware that you are very close to, you know, these out-of-state facilities or schools, and that might be, you know, a part of, you know, the concern here. But by spending this 15% as in the requirement, this will allow for some positive things, I believe, that could happen in your county. There are counties that report positive outcomes by doing this, because you can use the 15% of the money for both general education and special education students to improve services and outcomes, so that students may not be identified as special education, or may not increase in going to these out-of-state placements. It would build the capacity within your county to serve the students and to have the qualified staff that you need to serve the students in your county and to provide better services. So this is seen, you know, as to be a positive thing in some ways, and we do understand that it is it's difficult to use 15% of your money, of course, for you know, for these services, but it will benefit special education students as well as general education students. I must say, this is a federal requirement. It is not, I cannot question it. This data has been reported to the Office of Special Education Programs in Washington, D.C. We are required to report this information annually. And with this requirement comes, the federal funds. So by looking at this and looking at the extensive plan that Jefferson County has provided, which they did take place in, or they did take part in a training and a facilitated discussion by this IDEA data center that came in and worked with the counties that were showing calculations of significant disproportionality. And they have put a lot of work into this plan that they have created with the technical assistance of both the department and this outside technical assistance center. The plan that they submitted also, we went through, we made some edits. We had a further discussion with them about what we saw that may needed some editing. And once that happened, we approved it and signed off on this plan to be started July 1. And with this hold, at this time, we assumed the plan was approved. I mean, by the county and by us as the State Department. And as I said, this needed to start July 1. And that takes hiring in this situation, possibly hiring board certified behavior analysts. You will need your federal application, your money to, start working on this plan. And we're not able to release your federal funds if you have if there's a holdup in this plan. And I have to report that federally if there is any further concern regarding this, because your county has went through the process of doing everything that they need to do. The department has went through the process of actually asking technical assistance with this requirement, because it is a very detailed, it's a very difficult calculation. We wanted to make sure that we were not missing any steps in the calculations and the data. And they have approved, as I said, and checked the calculations. So we feel that this plan is ready to take place. And at this time, we would like you to make the decision to approve this. As I said, I can't release your IDEA funds for the county, and until this is until you're able to approve this and go forward.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So you're saying it was due July 1st?
It was due to start July 1st, yes.
So there's no more time by the school system waiting till the last day, the end, it's kind of leaves with no room to make any improvements on that plan. I understand that a lot of people worked on it. My concern is that, kids need interaction with the teacher. That's the most likely gonna help. And probably some extra reading teachers at the elementary level. That'll prevent a lot of behavior problems if kids kind of are learning and have more one-on-one. And there's no mention of that in this plan. There's no room for teachers. It's the closest the offer is for a coach, and I'm told that would be a certified special ed teacher. So I'm not understanding why that special ed teacher, why don't we have an autism specialist? If we need children with autism and behavior disorders, then it sounds like we need to be hiring maybe a specialist in those areas.
And in the
so
plan,
it doesn't make sense to me. Also, adding, I think 15 days to a couple board positions. I don't understand how that is going to go down to the classroom where the help is really needed. Are you familiar with the plan?
I have it in front of me, yes.
Okay, so yeah, those are things that stand out, and that's a concern, even though I know you say it's certified data. It's too late now, it sounds like, but it sounds like some of this data is not real clear still, but can't do anything about it because somebody certified it and you're using that data. But is there any room for, changing some of this this plan to where we can at least request a teacher that specializes in?
The concern was around the behaviors, and the reason the students are being placed, I believe, are because of extensive behaviors and around, behavior concerns, as in possibly even safety, by putting them in a more restrictive environment based on behavior. So the plan is addressing working with board certified behavior analysts, which are very, hard to come by in some places of our state. And I do believe that you have some folks in your county that are at the end of their, their training to become board certified behavior analysts, and these folks are your experts in behavior. So this is what is seen by the county to be the intervention that is needed to work with students so that their behaviors, and it can be both general and special education students.
Well, that sounds more realistic and reasonable, but it wasn't presented that way. What I heard, and maybe I heard wrong, was, a coach. And I said, will the person be certified? Yes, in special ed. Well, why not just hire a teacher? Well, we can't get teachers, but you're getting the coach that's certified. So it wasn't presented that specifically. So it says in the plan, board certified behavior specialist is what?
Behavior analyst. Yes, that's what was indicated. The plan is very extensive, and as I said, the plan came to us. We worked with the Technical Assistance Center. It was thoroughly reviewed, and like I said, there was edits and
about that position, the board certified behavior specialist. Yes. That's it specifically asks for that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I don't believe it with you. It's just very different from saying we need a coach. So
I'm sure the county can supply you with that plan to look over again. And
I can look it up. I just have my computer to see what's going on here. And then, maybe adding 15 days to the board position.
Susan, can I jump in?
I don't remember in the plan, or if it was something brought up in the meeting. I can't remember.
Renee Eccles-Hardy, who has also joined us, which I asked her to, she works in the Office of Special Education as well. And I would like, Renee, if you have something to say regarding this, Renee, go ahead.
Sure. I think one thing I want to make sure is very clear is that this plan that has been extensively reviewed and approved will go into effect as soon as the board gives that approval, which I hope is today, because time is of the essence. But I did want to also say that this is not a plan that does not have flexibility over time. It will be reviewed as their plan is implemented. So anything that they discover, along the way, the plan can be looked at again to say, okay, we need to tweak this, we need to add this, we need to take this out. But that will be based on data and based on evidence of how effective their plan is in action. So keep that in mind, that there will be opportunities to have discussions about the plan in the future.
And how will you evaluate the success of this, of all these things that are being,
That's the county. The county will do that, and they will do that using a tool that we have provided and trained them on to document students that they're keeping data on and students that they're following, so to speak. So all of that is in the plan. I would highly recommend that you take a look at it in detail, and also anything that you need to know about significant disproportionality is on our website, special education website, WEDE, and it is titled just that, significant disproportionality. And if you click on that, you can see the things that we have shared publicly, which also includes the training that the districts received that were significantly disproportionate. There's some valuable information there if you want to take the time to listen to that webinar. It was recorded, and there's also lots of federal links on there to give you more information about all of this and how the timeline and all of that. I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, that would have been helpful 2 weeks ago, so we had time to review and, you know, but I think.
Well, it's been there. It's been there all along, and I know that.
Been asking. I've asked. That's how I knew the data was not consistent across 3 different. So I have been asking.
Okay. Well, the data is correct. It is certified. There's nothing wrong with the data. But irregardless, this plan is approved and ready to go so they can start helping students. Thank you.
Ms. Beck, I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. If we follow through with the plan, it still may not change the number of students that we are sending out of state. I mean, do we need to bring those students back in order to be in compliance, or how does that work?
No, not necessarily. You know, the idea behind this plan is to put these services in place to build the capacity within your district to provide those services. There might be a time that you look at the students that are out of state and say that you do have the services available, you may bring them back. It doesn't say that you have to bring them back. It says that if you have the right supports in place, that you may look at those students who are placed in these schools out of state and determine whether, you know, that you feel as if they can come back to school, because these are IEP team decisions that has been made to place them there. These are not placed on DHHR placements, as in, you know, it might be outside of your hands. These are IEP team decisions. So, you know, once you have these supports in place and you feel as if this placement is a better decision for that student or those students, you can relook at that. So, you know, like I said, these are IEP team decisions, not necessarily decisions that were out of your hands, as in DHHR placing them out of state, which is a different, you know, situation. So you may make that decision down the road.
I have a question. How long do you usually give for a school system to come up with the plan, number one, and then how long, you know, before we're in compliance? Is it a one-time thing, spend 15% of the special ed budget, or is it ongoing until the problem is resolved?
We have to calculate this each year, and it is based on, going forward, it will be based on 3 years worth of data. So the new requirement would be, as we calculate this right now coming up in the fall, we would calculate the 17-18, 18-19, and 19-20 school year worth of data. So going forward, we will be calculating 3 years worth of data and looking at whether there is still significant disproportionality in the area as indicated as in this placement area.
Does that mean that next year you'll look at the last two and next year, or are you saying 3 years out?
It would be 3 years back. So it would add in the 19-20 school year. So that's what this upcoming calculation would be. And we are required to look at this annually.
So after you look at it next year, if the numbers change, and we give you the numbers, then we no longer have to spend 15%? Or is it that if there's still a problem, you have to do more, or there's a change in this plan? How does that work?
Well, you know, if you're no longer significantly disproportionate, the requirement is that you track 2 years worth of data. So we would have to look at the 2 years worth of data to see the progress that you're making. So it may be that you're not having to continuously spend the 15%, but we would have to look at, you know, tracking your data for 2 years and seeing that that improvement. So this is a very complicated requirement. As I said, you know, that's why we have asked the IDEA Data Center to come in and help us through this. It is so significant that it is attached to federal money, and that's why it is very important to understand this situation and the approval of this, because it could potentially affect all your federal money. And we certainly wouldn't want to get in that situation, because I do have to report whether you are complying with the requirement. And I did consult with the data center this morning to check in with them, to just talk about this. And they did bring this to my attention, which I knew that was, you know, a requirement, that, you know, it does affect your federal money if, you know, you have problems with complying with this requirement. I mean, we are providing technical assistance. We are happy with what has been produced and the work that Jefferson County has put together to put this plan out there. We feel like that they're getting at the root cause and looking at that and trying to make some systemic changes going forward. So we are very happy with the work that has been done. So, you know, it'll be an ongoing process of technical assistance and making sure that we are supporting the county in any, you know, concerns that they have, or, you know, just looking at their progress and seeing where we can go from there. So
you said it's costs. So I don't understand how adding more days onto a board, somebody that works at the board office, I think adding 15 days to their school year or something. I don't understand how that's going to improve. You said that gets at the root cause. So how would that get at the root cause? I just feel like I understand that a lot of money is tied to it. And I just personally would have preferred that, and you know, I don't know how long the board, I guess, have been dealing with this, maybe for the past year, but it would have been a good opportunity to get some teachers and maybe some programs that really help those kids. I understand that you come up with different ideas of ways to spend 15% of the budget, and it's nice, the behavior specialist, that's reassuring that if that's the case, that's what this coach would be. It's just some of the other things I just didn't understand how they would be helping.
You're talking about two different plans. Back in June, special education was asked to put out a presentation of where we were headed, because they were asking for an extension of a 240 to a 261 and the halftime Medicaid to a Medicaid. It has nothing to do with the disproportionality. So we were asked to do an overall of what's going on in special ed for the presentation. Part of the presentation is the disproportionality. That is the part that's the BCBA, the PERC. The money for, if it's approved for the 261 or the halftime, has nothing to do with the federal funds.
Okay, it just sounded like you were asking for us to approve that night. So these are two different things. So the only thing that really has to be, and we don't really have a choice, it sounds like, is this,
correct, because we are disproportionate in sending white people to an out-of-state placement.
I didn't hear.
Ms. Loring, are you still on the call here? I don't see your picture up here on the screen.
I'm still here, yes.
Oh, thank you. So if we approve this special ed plan this evening, what positions exactly would we need to go ahead and hire?
So for this evening, the presentation of the plan, we're requesting the board to approve creating the BCBA, the Board Certified Behavioral Analyst, and the PERT position.
What is that? PERT position?
Yeah, Amy, what's the second position you referred to?
It's what they referenced in the plan. It's the Parent Education Resource Coordinator.
Okay, that sounds useful. So I think that helps a lot, because mixing all these different things into one presentation, I think made it a lot harder for me. It wasn't clear that it just, anyway.
And I think it's important to note that the PERC position and the BCBA positions will definitely help beyond just the disproportionality response. It'll definitely help all of our special ed programs and improve. So I think it's going to be a good addition for you all to approve this evening.
As I said, those are very hard to come by. So I was impressed to hear that. I even asked that question, do you have folks that you would be able to hire, and it looks like you do have some candidates in your area that would be available. So that is a wonderful thing to have in your area.
Madam President, may I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
First, I would just say I am thankful for Cindy and Dr. Gibson and the team, Mr. Daly, who saw that several years ago when we offered to provide the BCBA training, because we did see this as a need as a board several years ago coming, and knew it was going to take time to try to grow some of our own in that, or as you said, Ms. Beck, you can't find them. And then you don't have a way to meet compliance if you can't find them. I think this year is going to be a little bit different. So I am glad to hear the state is going to 3 years of data, considering we basically will be about a year and a half of very skewed data based on what schools are open and what schools aren't, even with the kids that are sent to different placements. It'll be difficult, and some of them are opening. So I'll be interested to see if some of those that are not opening, if we open, do some of them come back because they can be educated here and are not being educated in an out-of-state area that has chosen not to open or to be virtual only. So that'll be interesting to see those numbers. The other thing I wondered from you, Ms. Beck, and Ms. Hardy may be able to help out as well with that. When school districts get into a situation where every year, as you said, you're looking at the data, we've had several discussions with how exactly do we handle special ed as a whole? How do we handle IEP meetings? How do we handle the IEP coordinators? There's a system in West Virginia that for those of us who have had special education students in other states, it is very different. And some of it I think is very good, and some of it is my personal experience very archaic. And I wondered do you guys track the numbers enough that you track the data of the 55 counties to say, if we have county A over here that does well with something, maybe they do this a little bit differently. Maybe they do a more centralized IEP. Maybe they do a more centralized school. However that happens. And then do you provide that as well as part of the plan, or to the counties to say, hey, maybe we try this, or maybe we try that, or do we just kind of take a snapshot of the numbers and then, you develop your own plan, but doesn't seem to be a lot of sharing for growth in special ed throughout the state?
Actually, we, as it was mentioned earlier on the annual desk audit, which is due April 30th each year, we have a very comprehensive look at the counties based on all the indicators that we're required to report to the federal government as an OSEP. And there's 16 indicators that we report on. And with that, if the county is not meeting the target, as in each indicator, then they're required to write an improvement plan. The improvement plan is looked at, it's edited, it's discussed with the directors, and then approved by our office as an improvement plan that we feel that would help that indicator or improve that target, and also those plans would tie into actually their application, which is the funding. So if you see, there's a group of indicators that, maybe you're not meeting that is tied along with graduation, dropout, transition services, some of them are grouped together. You might be spending some of your money, professional development on those indicators to improve those indicators as a group of indicators that would benefit from, say, a professional development opportunity. So, there is that process. And then we do have, when we do have face-to-face conferences or meetings, we do have sharing of counties that are doing things really well, and they're able to talk about that and discuss that with all the counties as to, how they've improved their data or what challenges they had and improved their data. So we do have that type of sharing. We are now looking into a tiered system of support in our office. So we are just starting that, and we're looking at the needs around a tiered system. Say the counties that might have been in needs intervention that, we know need some intensive help from our office, you would receive technical assistance more frequently as to your needs. And that might be that there's a targeted group of counties that need that same technical assistance that we might bring together and address it in that way. A universal level of supports for counties would be just, any webinars, information that we have to provide to all. And then there might be some targeted type supports, as I said, for those counties that, they have certain issues that we see that they have the same types of issues. They might be a county that, or counties that geographically look the same, that might be able to benefit from the same types of professional development and technical assistance. So we're looking at that tiered level of support from our office to work with counties and definitely work with counties with the most need, and also those that would need that targeted type support. So I hope.
So I guess that's what I'm asking, if you were saying indicators such as counties that are the same, if you're looking maybe at Kanawha, Mon, Berkeley, Jefferson, just as an example, you take 4 larger counties in the state and you can see of those indicators, each one of those counties I see tends to lag on indicator 3 and 5. But we notice small county, Morgan, some of the other smaller ones, if you decide from those, maybe Monroe, wow, they seem to do really well in those. So you're saying you guys are going to try to start this year, maybe putting those together to be able to say, wait a minute, let's share that data. Because even as a school board, I think that would be helpful just to be able to have that data sent even to the superintendents to be able to say, hey, these are the things that are going on, and we see that these indicators are done very, very well in this county, and they're not done as well in this county. County A is doing this, County B is doing this. We are so, distanced, if you will, because we are such a large state. It is hard to share, and I know I'm sure the meetings that you're talking about are the same as the school board meetings. Not everybody goes to all the same meetings or goes at all sometimes, and that makes it difficult to have time to share those kinds of questions. And we have levy to be able to actually afford where, a county like Monroe County, if they're falling short on that and you guys have to come in and say, hey, federally, you hire a BCBA or you're losing federal dollars, they lose a teacher out of a classroom.
Yeah.
And we have a little bit more of a leeway to be able to have to do those things and want to serve our students the best way that we can. But it's difficult in a state for the smaller counties. So I think if we could share information a little bit better, I'm thankful to hear that you're saying that you are maybe looking to work a little bit more towards
Yes,
you
and
can see all the data on. I don't know if she's aware, but you can see the data for all the counties and compare. I mean, that is was another indicator for me that our data looked so bad, because next door in Berkeley, it was more, there was more variety of numbers and it was more realistic. And anyway, you can look at every county.
And we're required to publicly report, information, a certain amount of data that is required to be publicly reported. So, you can go on our website and look at public reporting and see data, from other counties based on these indicators, as I said. And one advantage too to having a larger county or more numbers is, when you're looking at, say, a smaller county that has not very many students graduating, if one student drops out or doesn't graduate, that brings down that percentage quite a bit. So, there's plus and minuses of small counties, large counties. We see it, and I'm very involved with these determinations that come out each year. I have been for 9.5 years. So it's very intriguing to me because we're always looking at the indicators to see, okay, are there indicators that, that really no one is doing well on, or is there indicators that everyone is doing well on? I will say that compliance indicators, which, compliance, we can teach. We always say we can teach you to do compliance and we can help you. And each year we do these heat maps, and it seems like that the heat maps on the compliance indicators are all green, which is fantastic. That's where counties get their points. That's not always the case in other states. So I think that over the years, we've done a nice job teaching or working with the counties on how to be compliant. And going from compliance to results, I think we're showing a lot of improvement in going from compliance to results and making that connection that we're, the compliance piece, we've made it, I'm going to say easy, as in you understand those indicators and you don't have to put as much effort into them, so you can spend that time and make those connections to the results indicators that really do, of course, need to be improved in the whole entire state. But some counties do well in preschool indicators, some counties don't. And some counties do well in the graduation dropout, indicators, and some don't. So we really do see, just nothing that stands out that would say these aren't good indicators to look at, because or we need to target these indicators better. So I just wanted to point that out, because every year we do take a look at that data and we comb through it to try to see, where as a state, there are some issues, and then where, we need to provide more overall assistance. So, and it varies, to be quite honest. And we talk about like ways to make quick wins and ways that are things that, have long-term solutions. So I can look at your data and your indicators and probably throw out a few quick wins for you to say, this will get your scores up on your determination. But this is your long-term issue that, we need to have a long-term plan to improve this. So we are having those discussions as well.
So Ms. Loring and Mr. Dilly, in order to become, in compliance with this disproportionality discrepancy, we need to approve the portion of the plan that includes creating the positions of the BCBA and the PERC. Is that correct? Is that what you're asking for this evening?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there any other discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
To approve the portion of the plan that includes the BCBA and the PERC position creation?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any further discussion or question? All in favor of approving the BCBA and the PERC positions?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And thank you, ladies, very much for joining us this evening and giving us some clarity on the situation.
Thank you very much. And at any time, if you would want an update or any information, please reach out or have, Ms. Jones, Dr. Gibson. We're happy to provide you anything that you need to clarify any information. But I appreciate your time. And, if you have any questions of me, my email address is sbeck@k12.wb.us. And you can reach out anytime if you have any questions.
And I would echo what Susan has said. It's been a pleasure talking with you all this evening, and please let us know how we can support you moving forward.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. Please let us know if we can help in any way. More than happy.
Thank you.
Great. All right, next on the agenda is action on approval of auditing firm Perry & Associates to perform the fiscal year 2021 and 22 Jefferson County Board of Education and individual school audits.
Yes, hi, my name is Jennifer Conway. I'm the Assistant Treasurer here at the board office. Good evening, Madam President and board members. So back on April 27th, we had requested and received approval to submit a request for proposal to approved state audit CPA firms. At that time, we submitted to 10 different CPA firms. Of those 10 firms, we received a no response from 4. We've received 5 denial to bid confirmations from various firms related to COVID as well as to workload. And we received 1 confirmed bid from Perry & Associates. Perry & Associates also did do our last 3 fiscal year audits, 17, 18, and 19. At this time, the yearly increase of the audit went from 16,700, or it started out at 16,500, and they have increased their request to 16,700, which is $200. At this time, we're just requesting approval for Perry & Associates.
And just for a quick clarification, that number was for the Board of Ed audit, but not for the school audit, correct?
Correct. So the school audit itself was originally for the fiscal year 17, 18, and 19. Their original bid was 10,600, and they came in at 12,900 for the next 3 years. So overall, they're increasing the total by 7,500 over a 3-year period from the original 3-year contract that they just concluded.
And part of that increase from the 10.6 to the 12.9 is because of the fact that we rolled all of the boosters into the school funds. Is that the right
Correct.
assumption there?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the auditing firm Perry & Associates to perform the fiscal year 2021 and 22 audits for the Board of Education and the school audits?
Osborne, so moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Mr. Cable, any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving Perry & Associates?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to number 10, action on approval for the addition of dual enrollment courses.
As we've continued our efforts to add opportunities for our students, we've encountered some confusion about our college courses versus dual credit. We have been working with our partnering colleges to eliminate misrepresentation of dual credit options by revamping their brochures to reflect our county updates. Courses that were vetted first are the ones that students have registered for this fall. For this reason, the specific class options that were chosen for approval at the last board meeting, now the list that is up for approval this evening. If approved, these courses will be added to our list of dual enrollment options. Moving forward, our county will work on vetting the remaining courses and increase our offerings that are aligned to our county standards. Courses that do not get approved can only be taken by Jefferson County School students for college elective credit. The following courses were approved last board meeting: History 101, History 102, and Business 101. At tonight's board meeting, the following Shepherd University courses are up for approval: Economics 123, Economics 205 and 206, Geography 105, German 101, and Spanish 101.
All right, is there a motion to additional dual enrollment courses?
Ogden, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ogden. Is there a second?
Osborne, second.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Any question or discussion? Mr. Dilly, I have a request that, we don't need to do immediately, but is it possible to, when we list the dual enrollment classes, to say what that covers as far as the Jefferson County class? Because like economics, is that counted as a math class, or is that counted as a social studies class, or does it not count for anything? Or is it possible to show the mapping of what it's counting toward?
Yes, we can provide that to you, and I'll be glad to send out to you all the current list so that you can see all of the what it would actually equate to in the system. So,
thank you.
Mr. Dilly, really quick, do they make updates to that from the state level every year? I know they did a couple years ago with adding the 12th grade English as getting credit for English 101 and 102, but is the state continuing to move forward on those changes, or are we just,
There's been some changes that have occurred, and sort of like many things, they've sort of lobbed it back to local districts to work through. And so that's what we've been currently vetting and developing a process. And like often, Jefferson County sort of leading the way. So a lot of folks are actually looking at what we're doing, but we felt the most current and needed assignments were the students where they were currently being requested or currently happening, because we didn't want them to miss out on dual credit opportunities. So we'll continue to build the list and can clean up the dual credit vetting process as we move forward. But we've been, I have to say, Kathy Farrow and has been working very diligently with that, and I've been trying to support her on the side with work. But there's a lot of work that goes into those as we look at course standards, and as well as some of our staff have been reached out to. So we're going to continue to clean that process up as we move forward.
I'm never going to complain about getting more local control, so I'll be patient.
And Mr. Dilly, you mentioned that these were with Shepherd. Do we have the same with Blue Ridge and WVU as far as the same types of classes?
Yeah, the History 101, 102, and Business 101 last time was from the list that was for Blue Ridge. Some of the ones that we've previously already had that already received your approval include some of the other institutions, but some of it we're also waiting on them to provide some of the crosswalks that we've been requesting as part of our vetting process.
Thank you. All right. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of the dual enrollment?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. That brings us to the end. Dr. Gibson, do we have an executive session this evening?
Yes, ma'am. You have an executive session for legal advisement.
Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Is there a second?
Second, Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. All
Can I
in favor?
ask a quick question before we go into executive session? It was regarding a statement Dr. Gibson made about our update earlier. About what percentage do you feel like we are, Dr. Gibson, if the governor pulls the rug out from underneath us at being ready for the virtual with one-to-one devices if we had to have them? How many more do you feel like we need, or about what percentage can we cover as of right now?
That's a great question. Based on the responses that so we've done 2 surveys. The first survey was, you don't have to commit now, but tell us what you think you're going to do and whether or not you have a device or internet. Based on the response to that, we have more than enough to cover everyone who told us that they did not have sufficient devices. So as I said, we have 700 sitting in a warehouse. We have another 1,500 on their way. And we just got another 450,000 for another 1,000 plus. So we have more than enough for students who their families have conveyed, I want to go virtual and I don't have a device. Now for families like my child, he has a Chromebook, so I don't need one for him. A one-to-one would give one to everybody, whether they required it or not, even if they told us they already had a device that worked. So Jennifer Rowan and Kelly Wolf and Mr. Dilly worked through an order of selection, which is basically based on the information that you give us. Here's how far down we'll go in terms of devices. We'll cover everyone who has no device, and then we'll cover people who say, I have a device, but I have 2 devices and 3 kids. So the next tier is kids not having to share devices. And then the tier after that is one-to-one, even if you already have a device. Right now, as we're getting information in, it looks like if our orders all come in on time, we'll have enough to cover those first 2 tiers. So people who don't have devices, who tell us they don't have devices or don't have enough devices, we believe we'll be able to cover them. Again, caveat of all of our devices coming in that we've already pre-ordered. And then from that, we'll start doing one-to-one.
And that's of the people that chose virtual or said they're interested in virtual. But if the whole system is shut down, we need to recalculate those numbers, correct?
Which is exactly why we asked people that, yes, we asked them about choosing virtual, but we also asked them whether or not they had a device. So we actually talked about today in our JLT meeting, how when kids cycle out, if they're either on a 2-week quarantine, if they run in a full remote from an on-site, kids pulling and taking their laptops home from there. If we've gotten a notice that they didn't have devices, when we hand those out, we know which kids don't have devices, and their parents are going to sign an agreement for them to be able to take them back and forth and use them, and then keep them at home if we go full remote. Because technology was insightful in terms of planning, in that if any of those devices, because we always get questions about what happens if somebody steals a device or if they lose a device, we have the capability of turning them off and basically turning them into bricks. They can't be used for anything. They can't connect to the internet. You can't store anything on them. They don't have hard drives. So they're useless unless they come back to us and we start them up again. So we have a lot of safety built into that. And there also are devices so that the internet access that we provide to folks is filtered. So, again, it is not perfect. I am not going to stand here and tell you that it is. This year, the technology plan that was presented in February, I think, had us going full one-to-one for 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th grade, I think it was, Mr. Dilly. And if we get all of our laptops in and all the grant money, then we could do that this year. But we've said, rather than just going one-to-one at those grades, we're not going to go, like my son's in the 8th grade. We wouldn't go full one-to-one at 8th grade and hand them out to kids who already have devices and have somebody go out on virtual without a device. So our number 1 priority is you have to have a device to be able to access virtual. And then after that, I have a device, but it's not great. And when we say device, we're saying a laptop or an iPad. Phones are insufficient devices to be able to actually create content on. So That's the order of selection for us handing out devices and technology. That's a great question. Thank you.
And this Wednesday is our first Zoom for parents as far as an update on what exactly it is we're doing with virtual.
Yes, ma'am. They're going to go over the virtual program. They are going to show parents what a Google Classroom would look like for them and for their students and what they can expect. They're going to show them where the support documents and training are. They're going to talk to them about how to access support from teachers and from us on our website, and about some of the social emotional supports that we have built into the schedule. So I anticipate it will be a very well-attended training. We will also be recording those and posting them up on our website for people to be able to see them if they can't attend those Zooms.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor to go into executive session for legal. And Dr. Gibson, do you anticipate action?
Maybe.
Possibly.
It is a possibility. I will say that.
Okay. All right. So all in favor of going into executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you.